We are back at the Lausitzring after just 1 week, and we're so excited and ready to get racing. Welcome to the DTM season 2020. And last weekend it was really hot here, and yesterday we even had 35 degrees, and today it's been raining all morning, and now it's actually quite cool. So completely different condition for the guys. It's going to be definitely a very exciting race. And Nico Miller, just incredible after 3 wins. He's now starting in pole position. And one man who really knows the DTM inside out, he's been with it long enough, is Bernd Schneider, Mr. DTM, the only driver ever who got 5 titles. And Bernd, you know the Lausitzring really well as well. But first of all, after all this time, your last season was 2008. How has it changed and how is it to be back?
It's great being back. I'm missing a little bit the spectators and the grid, but of course, of these conditions, we are happy to be here anyway. I mean, DTM made a big progress, and I mean, there's so much more professional in the last 10 years. So it's great to see the cars and to see how they're developed, and it would be fun to have a ride in one time in that kind of cars.
Now, we talked about the rain, and you certainly know, you remember I think it was 2000 here at the Lausitzring. You know the story about rain. What happened back then?
I mean, in that days was very difficult. The surface was brand new, and there was a bit oil coming out of the surface, and there was a lot of standing water on track. Aquaplaning was a big issue, and they had to cancel the race. Even I was on pole position and leading the race. So, but for safety, they quit the race. Was a shame because it was a new track and quite difficult conditions. Today it will be much better. I mean, we have damp conditions. We have the 2 fastest guy in the first row, but I think in these conditions everything can happen because it's 12 minutes to go, and I'm not sure, and I wouldn't like to take the decisions which tires coming on the car.
And that's why we can still see on Nico's car, they don't know yet either. Just a few seconds ago it was actually still drizzling, so who knows. But Bernd Schneider, it's good to see you here. Enjoy watching the race. Thank you so much. And now here's your commentator.
Thank you very much. Great to hear from Bernd Schneider and also Verena there. And yeah, the big question is, what tyres do you run? Well, at the moment, the track conditions are definitely wet, but there is no rain currently. Of course, the teams are furiously checking the weather radar to ascertain whether any more rain is likely to come. You can see there Nico Müller in conversation with team principal Thomas Biermeier there. Doubtless the conversation is with regards to the tyres. My personal belief, and there to the left-hand side of the picture is Thomas from Hankook Tyres. My personal belief is that I think the drivers will start on the wets and then some early pit stops, maybe to go onto slicks, assuming that we don't get another shower. Now, Jamie Green goes from P13 on the grid. He's been advantaged by virtue of the fact that Ferdinand Habsburg and Harrison Newey have taken 5-place grid drops for red flag speed infringements during the qualifying session earlier today. This is Robert Kubica going from P12 for the Orlen Team ORN. Let's hear from a second row starter now, and that is Robin Freins.
Starting in P3 is Robin Freins. And Robin, we still don't know about the weather. I mean, you've made your decision with the tires, but what are you expecting for the race?
Yeah, obviously the track is slowly drying up now. Everybody starts on rain tires, which is the logical choice. So we see what happens in the race. I think if it doesn't rain anymore, people will struggle with the tires, and then it's the right time to find the right time to go on slicks. So it's going to be a difficult race for everyone.
All right, best of luck. Thank you, Robin. Back to you.
Thanks. Cheers, Robin. So his view is everyone will be starting on the wets, which kind of reinforced what I thought, that everyone will start on the wets, and then I think sooner rather than later we will see drivers perhaps come in and opt for the slick tyres. Let's see. Loic Duval goes from P9 for Audi Sport Team Phoenix. Should say good afternoon and welcome to the Lausitzring. We were here just a week ago with DTM as we look at Sheldon van der Linde, but this week, of course, we used the 4.570 configuration of the Lausitzring circuit, so a different configuration to that of last week where we used the shorter sprint track. Therefore, more opportunities for DRS to play a part potentially in the race to come. What a brilliant shot that is. supreme shot of Philip Eng going from P7 on the grid. His time, a 1:58.909, good enough for P7. Let's hear from the BMW driver now, Sheldon van der Linde.
And I'm here with Sheldon van der Linde. Sheldon, you're starting in P8 today. Last week you had a second place, you were on the podium, now P8. Where can you go from there? What do you think?
Yeah, I think the race is very open. I have to say, I think no one really has an idea what the weather's going to do today. So hopefully it doesn't mix up too much. Obviously, from this start position, I would like a bit of action at the front so I can get to the front as well, because P8 is not the best start position for us. But yeah, I think definitely everything's open in the race. As you saw in qualifying, people going off. I went off on my last lap, unfortunately, lost 1 or 2 tenths there. So everything can happen. The car is so on the limit. So if you just lock a tire or something, you know that you're off the track. So you got to be careful, but at the same time, you got to take a lot of risk to get to the front. So yeah, let's see.
So it's going to be very tricky, and also it's starting to rain a little bit more. I'm feeling the drizzles, right?
Yeah, 100%. It seems like it's starting to rain again. So like I said, it's going to be interesting.
Absolutely.
We need to ask the weatherman what it's going to do, but at the moment, it looks like it should start raining again midway through the race. So yeah, let's see.
All right, but you seem very cool, so I'm sure you're going to do well in the race. Thank you so much. Best of luck.
Thank you very much.
And back to the commentator.
So Sheldon then intimating then from his weather radar information from the team that potentially midway through the race there could be another rain shower. That'd be a curveball, that's for sure. Here's Mike Rockenfeller then, and Mike Rockenfeller going from P4 on the grid alongside Robin Frein. So a second row start for Mike Rockenfeller. I had a conversation with him last night, and he was saying how the Audi Sport Team Phoenix team were really trying to get on terms with their Audi Sport Team AB Sportsline competitors, because AB Sportsline have certainly nailed the setup of these cars for DTM, and he was hoping, and indeed that was proven in qualifying, that he has got a very good car underneath him now. As we see René Rast then buckling into his car. Let's go back down trackside now and hear from Nico Müller.
And I'm here with the incredible Nico Müller. Nico, you've done 3 consecutive wins, and now the first time this season you're in pole position. So what does your gut feeling say? Is it going to be a 4th win today?
Well, we'll try, but I think today is going to be a very difficult race because the conditions are a bit uncertain. I mean, the track is drier than it has been in qualifying, but still, you know, there is drizzle in the air. You don't really know what the weather will do during the race. Maybe we will even see people changing to slicks towards the end of the race. So we don't really know what to expect. We'll just try to do our job, maximize what we have, and you know, with a free view into the first corner, I hope that, you know, we can show a decent race.
So it's kind of a lottery today.
Well, lottery I wouldn't say. You know, we always take decision based on facts, and we just hope that these will be the right ones. And yeah, we'll find out.
All right, Nico, best of luck. Thank you so much. Back to you.
Interesting point made by Nico there, and that is he will have a clear view, assuming he maintains his P1 position going into turn 1. Of course, the spray coming off the back of the cars for those that are following the front runners has a real impact in terms of visibility, because there is still some standing water around on various parts, and there you can see decision being made very late in the day with regards to Nico Müller, although he seemed to indicate that the tyre choice was going to be wet weather tyres, even though the slicks remain alongside his car. René Rast then, who's P2 in the driver's points and P2 on the grid. As you can see, the blue marked Hankook tyres are the wet weather tyres. The car's still up on the jacks, but I don't think there's any doubt that everyone will be starting on those wet weather tyres. And René Rast sitting exactly 40 points behind Nico Müller in the points chart at the moment, after the points from qualifying had been added to their tallies. Dieter Gas then, the head of Audi Motorsport, they're in conversation, and of course, he has got the front 2 rows absolutely nailed, which will be a delight to him. And the cars all assembled on the grid, a very different grid, of course, with no spectators here, and we completely understand and wish that they were here. But in these coronavirus-affected times, we are just delighted that we are able to go racing once again. It is DTM for 2020. We're live from Lausitzring, the long version of the circuit. Lausitzring, so the distance to Dresden, some 63 kilometers, 27 DTM races since 2001, and the winners last weekend, Nico Müller and René Rast, who will be going from P1 and P2 on the grid for this race. DTM victories in total, Audi with 11, BMW just 1, and Mercedes, of course, no longer with us, 15 victories. Some of the supreme sights of the old ore mining machines here. And as you approach the Lausitzring, you cannot fail to miss the extraordinary turbine that sits behind the main grandstand, which is where we're situated to bring you comms on this, the fifth race of our DTM season for 2020. 55 minutes plus 1 lap. Weather conditions through qualifying wet, and weather conditions now damp, but no rain at the moment. Robin Freins fully focused then. He goes from P3 on the grid, going from pole position, though it is this man, Nico Müller, who, of course, has scored 3 victories into P2 place, which gives him such a commanding position in the Drivers' Championship points at the moment. Nico, of course, will be hoping very much to maximise his performance in qualifying, where he did the very best job he could. He put it on pole position, as we can see, with our grid animation. René Rast, current champion, goes from P2 on the grid alongside Nico Müller. Then to the second row, where we find Robin Freins, and a good qualifying from Mike Rockenfeller sees him P4. Best of the BMWs, Marco Wittmann and Lucas Au, P5 and P6. Then we find Philip Eng and Sheldon van der Linde on the 4th row of the grid. Lloyd Duval and Jonathan Aberdeen share the 5th row because they go from P9 and P10. And then it's Fabio Scherer and Robert Kubica going from P11 and P12. Jamie Green and Timo Glock, P13 and P14. Before we find Ferdinand Habsburg and Harrison Newey, P15 and P16, them being pushed back from their P10 and P11 positions in qualifying due to speed infringements during the red flag session during qualifying earlier today. We split the screen and show you pole and P2, Nico Müller and René Rast. Nico Müller to the left-hand side of your picture. It was René Rast to the right-hand side, which is exactly how we see the cars lining up at the front of the grid right now. There the track unfolds. 4.570 configuration. 4.570. 55 minutes plus 1 lap. The lap record then 1:37.897 from Philip Eng. Now, we have 14 turns, 8 of them left, 6 of them are right-handers. Something like 44 gear shifts per lap. We are an hour from Berlin and 45 minutes or so from Dresden. So a different configuration to the Lausitzring circuit to that we used last weekend, which was the sprint version. We are on the longer version for this weekend, which gives you great opportunity as you close out Sector 1 with that long drag from Turn 5 to Turn 6 on the one of the original parts of the tri-oval here, the Lausitzring. As Bernd Schneider was saying right at the beginning of our programme, track opened in 2000, and it was a rain-affected 2000 as well, if memory serves me correctly. Robin Freins then receiving final words of encouragement from engineer down there on track as the identifying markers then are taken away from the grid, and we are but a few moments away from the race getting underway. All drivers then, to the best of our ability, are starting on the Hankook wet weather tyres. However, we are thinking that should there be no further rain, strategies that will be played out by the teams in terms of when drivers are brought in to go onto the slick weather tyres could prove to be absolutely critical in this, the 5th race of our 2020 season. So final engineers leave the grid, and we get ready for our formation lap. Engines are fired up. Sense of anticipation and excitement inside the cars, and of course for us as well as avid viewers of the DTM for 2020. You can see the clock counting down, just 15 seconds now. Feels like an eternity when you're waiting for the roar of the cars to leave the grid. And there on the starting gantry we go. All eyes on the clock. And the cars are released from their grid boxes. Muller, Rast, Freins, Rockenfeller. Best of the BMWs, the two-time DTM champion Marco Wittmann. So race 5 of our 18 race championship in 2020. From this second weekend here in the Lausitzring, we head off to Assen next, and we're on board now with Nico Muller, who will be testing the limits of adhesion around this track, and of course he will have the advantage of completely clear visibility along with René Rast on the front row. Then it's Robin Freins and Mike Rockenfeller ahead of Marco Wittmann and Lucas Aaron, all BMW row 3. Same for row 4 with Philip Eng and Sheldon van der Linde ahead of Loic Duval and Jonathan Aberdeen, going from P9 and P10. Then we find Fabio Scherer and Robert Kubica ahead of Jamie Green and Timo Glock, with Ferdinand Habsburg and Harrison Newey, as I mentioned earlier on, being affected by a red flag speed infringement, and them both taking a grid drop. Nico Muller at the moment then heading around turn 10, approaching turn number 11. Ordinarily turn 11 taken absolutely flat. Inside to the garages we go. And Dieter Gas to the left-hand side of your picture. To the right-hand side of your picture is Thomas Biermeier from Abt Sportsline. And there, Nico Muller, the Abt Sportsline driver that has put the car on pole position. So at these speeds then, as we go on board with Marco Wittmann. Not too much spray being chucked up, but the cars, of course, are at formation lap speed rather than race speed. You can see the tyres being shuffled and assembled, ready for this race. So the cars tentatively approach the grid. Quick burnout from Nico Muller and also from René Rast. Let's hear him guided into his grid box.
Slow approach, cars are still arriving. 3, 2, 1, go, stop. Perfect. Remember ALS on.
So it's critical that all the cars are millimetrically perfect into their grid boxes, and Nico Muller, like all the other drivers, being guided into his grid box by engineer. And the final car arrives on the grid now. And therefore the start sequence can get underway. We await the green flag from the marshal right at the back of the pack once he's happy that every car is situated where it is supposed to be. And that appears to be the case, because the green flag is flown now from the back of the pack, which means the start sequence can get underway. Stand by, we are about to go racing. DTM 2020. 4 red lights, 5 lights out. Let's go racing. Great start from Robin Freins, an awful start from René Rast, who loses out to Robin Freins and also Philip Eng. And Robin Freins right on the back of Nico Muller in the early stages of this race as they make their way through turns 1 and 2. There are still several cars 2 abreast. But René Rast had a torrid time of it right at the start of the race. And there you can see, already trying to make hay while the sun shines, Jamie Green, something of a wet weather expert. And as the cars now reach this straight, René Rast begins to get into his stride and is challenging Philip Eng to wrestle back that P2 place. P3 place now, of course, for René Rast, which he's trying to wrestle back as he lost out P2 to Robin Freins, P3 to Philip Eng. And a whole gaggle of cars there, including Timo Glock in the mix. Timo, of course, was caused the qualifying session this morning to be red flagged, as Robin Freins is really pushing Nico Muller for the lead of this race, and those 2 cars are breaking away significantly from the rest of the pack. And There was me extolling the virtues of having the clear track ahead of them, but actually there's so little standing water around that I don't think it is affecting visibility terribly unless you go offline, as here comes René Rast now on Philipp Eng, but Philipp Eng has got the inside line. But René Rast all the way around the outside, if he can make this stick. A brilliant overtake and a little nerf for Marco Wittmann on Philipp Eng as well. Sees Marco Wittmann move up, and Philipp Eng in the space of 2 corners loses out on 2 places. So Marco Wittmann now becomes the best of the BMW drivers to show. Fabio Scherer and Sheldon van der Linde side by side. But around turn number 14 now, and heading towards the start-finish line as push-to-pass is enabled, and we have 1 lap completed and put in the book. So the order is Muller from Freins, from Rast, from Wittmann, Eng, Duval, Rockefeller, Green, Habsburg, Glock. Those are the top 10. Marco Wittmann chasing down René Rast. This is Mike Rockefeller being hounded by Jamie Green in the fight for P7. Nico Muller. Mike Rockefeller all over the back of Loic Duval. Wipers on, I think, for the spray rather than any rain that is coming down at the moment. Although after saying that, there appears to be more standing water there. So from our vantage position here, it's not clear whether it is raining or not. But Nico Muller's wiper and Robin Freins' wiper's not going, which would suggest it isn't. Ferdinand Habsburg looking keen behind Jamie Green. And we go on board with Ferdinand Habsburg now. Around the outside of Jamie Green, how much confidence has Ferdinand Habsburg got in his car? From the independent WRT team, what a move over Jamie Green. As Ferdinand Habsburg moves up to P8. So he set that up absolutely perfectly. He got complete confidence in the car and the grip that was available to him and went around the outside of Jamie Green. Those two, having had just a little touch together in the qualifying session earlier on today. And Ferdinand Habsburg puts himself into P8. Bear in mind, Ferdinand Habsburg started right at the back of the pack on the back row. He's moved up some 7 places. So Muller with a 1.6 second margin over Robin Freins. Then it is René Rast and Marco Wittmann. So we'll cast through turn 1 then. Big loser from the start of the race, Mike Rockefeller dropping 3 places. You can see both Rast and Rocky really struggling to get away. Philipp Eng with a lightning start. Just watch him here in the blue BMW through the middle of this pack, look. Getting past Wittmann, Rockefeller and Rast as well. Great start from Philipp Eng, but he finds himself relegated to P5 in the race currently. And just watch for Philipp Eng on the left-hand side of your picture here. There he goes, like an absolute bullet. So too did Loic Duval. As Marco Wittmann bogged down at the start. Great to get all these start replays. And Philipp Eng running just a little bit wide there. That was enough for René Rast to have the opportunity to go through on the outside. René Rast currently running in P3, and Marco Wittmann also able to get past Philipp Eng in that same move. So Muller leading by 1.9 seconds, stretching his legs over Robin Freins. Then it is Rast, Wittmann, Eng, Duval, Rockefeller, Habsburg, Green, and Timo Glock is rounding out the top 10. So Ferdinand Habsburg now getting closer to Mike Rockefeller now that he's managed to get past Jamie Green. And Habsburg just had so much confidence and so much momentum. Just drove around the outside of Jamie Green. This a replay of his overtake. A job exceptionally well done by Ferdinand Habsburg. Just taking the wide line there. He was able to carry so much more speed. Great to see that again. Now Robin Freins is beginning to come under pressure from René Rast. Muller, you can see, has really escaped up the road and has a margin of over 2 seconds. Then the gap between Freins and Rast is down to 8/10. We're on board with René Rast momentarily as he chases down Robin Freins. Here's the battle for P2. Second gear for René Rast now. Just being very gentle on the throttle pedal. Too aggressive on that loud pedal. You could see the back end of the car stepping out. He's being very, very gentle and cautionary in terms of his movements on the accelerator, but all the time trying to narrow that gap to Robin Freins. You can see how the drivers are adapting and taking different lines around this Lausitzring circuit as potentially parts of it begin to dry out. And my reckoning is that as soon as the pit window is open, that potentially there could be a gaggle of cars that come in and maybe go for the slick tyres. Don't know. When you've got these wet weather tyres, what you're always trying to do is search out for the dampest patches on the track to keep the tyres within the operating window to get the best out of them. And there you can see Loic Duval diving to the inside there and the spray coming up. Just means that they're finding the moisture on the track to ensure the tyres remain in that cooled window. Green now under some pressure from Timo Glock. So Jamie Green running in P9. Timo Glock is in the points, P10 at the moment, but is chasing the car ahead of him. Timo's best finish, a P6 in the second race here last weekend. His best finish of the season. Expect much more to come from the superstar that is Timo Glock. Jamie Green, of course, has had a P2. He was on the podium in the opening race at Spa, but has not been able to repeat the feat so far in DTM 2020. Nico Muller, of course, has had 3 wins and a P2, which really rather cements his position at the top of the points chart going into this weekend. In fact, his cemented position at the top still further hardened by his 3 points gained from qualifying from the session this morning. It's both Loic Duval and Mike Rockefeller and also Ferdinand Habsburg all just pick up a little bit of the dirt on the exit of that turn 9. So here's Muller then, 2.617. He's just breaking away and able to speed away from the rest of the pack with seemingly no problems at all. And he starts lap 6, and there's Robin Freins and René Rast. You can just see in the picture as well. And then running in P4 is Marco Wittmann ahead of Philipp Eng, Loic Duval. Then the number 99 car of Mike Rockefeller ahead of Ferdinand Habsburg. And Jamie Green, who is being pestered somewhat by the all-yellow BMW of Timo Glock, who gets a good bit closer now to Jamie Green. Just about 4 or 5 tenths between Green and Glock in that P9 position. It's Jamie Green, the brilliant British driver, running in P9, and Timo Glock running in P10 currently, as the LED indicators in the back of the cars light up to tell you the positions that they are in currently. So on certain parts of the track, Jamie Green able to break away from Timo, and here then was just what I was talking about a few moments ago, where they pick up some of the dirt on the exit of that turn. Some cars much tighter than others running a bit wider, like Sheldon van der Linde. And Fabio Scherer behind. Just chucking that gravel onto the track. This is Mike Rockefeller. It's P7 at the moment. Ferdinand Habsburg behind, Loic Duval ahead. And what issue do we have for René Rast? Because Marco Wittmann has just driven by. So did René make a mistake somewhere that we didn't see? René is not someone that does make mistakes generally, because that looked like a really, really easy pass by Marco Wittmann. Of course, DRS enabled. I'd love to see the start of that overtake maneuver from Marco Wittmann, who's found himself into a podium place now. Of course, he was on the podium in the last race here at the Lausitzring last weekend, race 2. He took P3, so here we have it. Maybe it was René reacting. No, René does go off. So I rather figured that something had happened to allow Marco Wittmann to really narrow that gap, and for René to be relatively so easily passed. I wonder whether René was just reacting to the fact that it appeared that Robin Freins had gone off as well. And if we look at the gap between Muller and Freins, which is up to 3.5 seconds, that would suggest that Freins did run wide, because the gap has increased between Nico and Robin. And I wonder whether René was just reacting to that. Lost concentration for a millisecond, and that was enough for René to go across the grass and the gravel, and for Marco Wittmann to be able to take advantage. So you can see Robin there taking a high, wide line around there, trying to find, as the back end of the car really steps out, which suggests to me that perhaps the wet weather tyres are now beginning to not work quite as well. Here is Muller. At the moment, no problems for him. His trajectory looks simply superb and pinpoint accurate. There's Freins. Had sufficient of a gap over, at the time, René Rast, that his little excursion didn't mean he loses out on that P2 position, but where he has lost out is in the gap between himself and our race leader, Nico Muller. As Nico crosses the line now, we'll get a live time between Muller and Freins now, and it is up to 3.996 as René Rast now tries to wrestle back that P3 place. He lost from Marco Wittmann. Marco Wittmann dives to the inside to try and block the move, but René goes through and retakes that P3 place, relegating Marco Wittmann to P4. Philipp Eng is P5, so René's excursion just a couple of laps ago, he's able to right the wrongs of that, which enabled Marco Wittmann to get by, and René Rast now is back into that P3 place. You can see the DRS usage use on the graphics to the left-hand side of your screen. Rast and Rockenfeller on the DRSs. So René Rast now having secured the retention of that P3 place, has now got a huge margin to make up to the likes of Freins and Muller. Some 11, very nearly 12 seconds down on our race leader, Nico Muller. Very nearly 8 seconds down on Robin Freins. So René Rast then. There is Marco Wittmann. And here was René then on the outside of Marco Wittmann. Marco just not having the momentum to be able to block the move going into turn number 1, and René gets the job done, and now he's been released. You can see how he's escaping up the road. The pace advantage that he has over Marco Wittmann is significant, and now Marco perhaps under pressure from Philipp Eng, who of course made that blockbuster start right at the start of the race, diving through the middle of the rows ahead of him. Made up 3 places, I think it was, right at the start of the race. Now finds himself in P5, and he'll hardly consider that just reward for his efforts right at the start of the race. On board with Philipp Eng now as he heads into turn number 1, as Loic Duval is also being caught now by Mike Rockenfeller. So track conditions are such then, with what have we got, just under 40 minutes of the race remaining, plus 1 lap. Providing you can pick up the dampness on the track, the wet weather tyres still performing. Just looking at the last lap time from Nico Muller, it was a 1:53.9. only other driver in the 153 is Sheldon van der Linde, incidentally, running back there in P12 at the moment. Everyone else in the 54s, pretty much. So Mike Rockenfeller now, who is P7. And here is Philipp Eng and his quest to try and wrestle away the P3 place being held by Marco Wittmann at the moment. Philipp Eng, of course, would love to be on the podium. And there you can see the slick weather tyres, the slick tyres, dry weather tyres, I should say, being readied for someone. And from our vantage point up here in the commentary studio, which is at the top of the main grandstand on the start-finish straight, we can see slick tyres being readied in a couple of the garages. Wittmann really under strife now from Philipp Eng for this P4 place. And there you can see Philipp Eng hanging on the tails of Marco Wittmann's car, now surely going into turn one. Marco Wittmann is going to be very vulnerable to an overtake here from Philipp Eng. DRS deployed, Philipp Eng along the inside, able to get past Marco Wittmann with no trouble at all with that DRS assistance, and he goes through to pick up that P4 place. And now we'll put the chase on to René Rast, who's 3 seconds up the road. Loic Duval and Mike Rockenfeller. It's P6 for Duval, it's P7 for Rocky. And the first into the pit lane I can see from our studio is Fabio Scherer. So Fabio Scherer then, who was running at the back of the pack, rolling the dice and choosing to come in and take slick tyres. Here is Fabio Scherer on his way out of the pit lane now. It'll be very, very interesting to look at Fabio Scherer's times. Bear in mind the tyres are cold following the pit stop. It'll take him at least a lap, maybe even two, to get the tyres up to temperature in the less than desirable conditions in comparison to the temperatures that we were having yesterday of some 35. Nothing like that today, so might take Fabio just a little bit longer to warm those tyres up, but then it will be very interesting to see what his lap times are in comparison to everybody else. So Audi's WRT team deciding to bring Fabio in and put him back out again on the slick weather tyres. Of course, strategies being decided and talked about all the time on the pit walls here. And Loic Duval and Mike Rockenfeller, if those cars were welded together, they could not be closer, truthfully. It's the fight for P6. There's René and Rocky there. Will he dive to the inside? He does. Good racing room left by Loic Duval, and Mike Rockenfeller goes through and picks up that P6 place. So Mike Rockenfeller, who had a torrid start, really seemed to bog down at the start, as we see now more cars coming into the pit lane, including the likes of Harrison Newey and Sheldon van der Linde, I can see from my vantage point here. But this was the overtake in replay from Mike Rockenfeller. And there you can see exactly what I was talking about. Sheldon van der Linde and Harrison Newey both having come into the coming to the garages and taken their mandatory pit stop. And I would be absolutely amazed if they put anything other than slick tyres on. Of course, all the teams will be monitoring the weather radar, and sure enough, Harrison Newey is certainly on those slick tyres. The Harrison Newey car, resplendent with the Joe Macari logo. Joe himself, a Londoner and good race experience, a super bloke as well, Joe Macari. And Harrison supported by Joe in his DTM career. Indeed, his motor racing career. DTM being a huge opportunity for Harrison this year. So René Rast then, who is P3. And this is Marco Wittmann, who, having been passed by Philipp Eng, now finds himself being hounded by one Mr. M. Rockenfeller. Rocky not quite as close to Wittmann as he was to Loic Duval, so for this lap, he manages to hold on to that P5 place, but Rocky wants that, there's no question. So Wittmann doing everything he can to make his BMW as wide as possible as Timo Glock comes in as well, and the team go to work on the number 16 car. He's released in 8.2 seconds with the slick tyres on. And critically now, I can see from our position up high as Mike Rockenfeller really does everything he can to get by Marco Wittmann. Has he achieved it? No, not yet. But look at this. They could not be closer. And now Rocky with the inside line, surely, although Ferdinand Habsburg went round there earlier on and carried so much speed, but this time Mike Rockenfeller has made it stick. So great job done by Mike Rockenfeller, who finds himself up into P5. Robert Kubica has been in for a stop as well, and slick tyres going on to the car of Robert Kubica, engineered of course by the ART Grand Prix team. As in now comes Marco Wittmann. So there René Rast and Robin Freins and Nico Müller and Philipp Eng and Mike Rockenfeller all decide to, no, Philipp Eng has come in as well. Rast being told to box at the end of this lap. So René Rast then, we can expect to see him in. Philipp Eng has come into the pit lane, as well as Marco Wittmann and Ferdinand Habsburg. Now Ferdinand Habsburg had made good progress as well in the race, so the slicks go on to the Marco Wittmann car. Good stop. 6.2 seconds. Philipp Eng's stop was 7.1. Ferdinand Habsburg, a torrid stop, 14.4 seconds for Ferdinand Habsburg. Compared to the others, that was not such a good one. So very roughly half of the pack have been in, including Glock. You can see him weaving from side to side there, trying to generate temperature into the tyres. But Müller, Freins have chosen not to come in yet, but we know Rast is coming in at the end of this lap. The gap between Müller and Freins, 4.2 seconds. Ferdinand Habsburg, Timo Glock, Sheldon van der Linde, Ferdinand Habsburg, of course trying to generate temperature into the Hankook rubber as well. Ahead of Sheldon van der Linde. It's P12, P13 on the track. Sheldon, though, having stopped 2 laps earlier, will have significantly better grip, and sure enough is able to go by Ferdinand Habsburg with very little problems. Right, in comes Robin Freins, René Rast and Mike Rockenfeller, but critically Nico Müller stays out. So Freins, Rast, Rocky, pit lane speed limiters in operation. Here comes Freins. We run the clock on the Robin Freins stop, in Rockenfeller as well, and René Rast. 6.8 seconds for Freins, 7.4, not quite so good for Rast, and 6.6 for Mike Rockenfeller, who is right on the back of Rast now. Also coming in is Lucas Auer, I believe, in the BMW. So that means that the order now is Müller, Duval, Green, Aberdeen. As out comes René and Mike Rockenfeller ahead of Philipp Eng. Now, car number 10 is under investigation for leaving the track and potentially gaining an advantage, and that's Harrison Newey. So Eng and Rast and Rockenfeller are on board with Marco Wittmann. Wittmann stopping on lap 12. Just under 30 minutes of this race remaining. More slick tyres are being prepared. Oh, you can see there how the back end of Mike Rockenfeller's car, as he's desperately trying to hold on to this place over Marco Wittmann, but Wittmann's tyres are just a bit older, and therefore he has got more grip available to him, and therefore is able to get past Rocky. But probably the time it took him to get by Rocky will have played into the hands potentially of René Rast. As in now comes the race leader Nico Müller, who had built a good margin. However, Nico, of course, is going to go on to the slick tyres, we assume. Yes, of course, there they are. He will come out on cold tyres. It will take him some time to get those tyres up to temperature. We need a good stop here from the AB team. 7.2, it's good, but we've seen quicker. Also in is Loic Duval. So here is Freins, exiting turn 14, start-finish straight. Here's Müller now about at the end of the pit lane. Now, bear in mind, Robin Freins' tyres will be up to temperature. Nico Müller is going to be very vulnerable for at least a lap, I would suggest. Robin now needs to push, but his tyres are relatively young as well. This is the best opportunity Robin Freins has got to take the lead of this race. Surely on the straight between turns 5 and 6. Freins gets to the inside of Müller. Is Philipp Eng going to be able to do the same? Müller does everything he can to try and block the move, but Philipp Eng has got so much more advantage now and he's able to go through on Nico Müller. So Robin Freins, you can see he's still having to tiptoe this car and he becomes vulnerable to Philipp Eng. So Philipp Eng now is pushing Robin Freins. Philipp Eng, we go on board with the BMW Team RBM driver who had such a brilliant start. So what can Philipp Eng do? The more meters of tarmac that Freins can hold on to over Philipp Eng. And Marco Wittmann now we can see from the rear cam on Nico Müller's car. Nico under pressure from Marco Wittmann. The back end of Marco Wittmann's car wants to let go, but he holds on to it beautifully, gets to the inside of Nico Müller now around turn 14. A relatively easy job done on Nico Müller, and here comes René Rast. René, of course, having stopped earlier than Müller, his tyres up to temperature. So all along we felt that if there was no more rain, then tyres and the strategic call of when to change those tyres could really impact and affect this race. Rocky has got Timo Glock, and here comes Rast on Müller. These two are P1 and P2 in the Drivers' Championship points, and Rast using the DRS to good advantage to get by Nico Müller. But theoretically, with 25 minutes left to run and slightly younger tyres on the Nico Müller car, will that give him the advantage towards the end of the race? Freins has got 1.1 seconds over Philipp Eng. It's Wittmann P3, Rast P4, Müller P5. On board with Philipp Eng, who initially really tried hard to get by Robin Freins, but was denied. You can see Philipp is using DRS, of course, push to pass available to the drivers as well. So Freins leads by 7/10 over Philipp Eng. There's Rast, Müller, Rocky, and Timo Glock, and Timo Glock looking in good shape. Chasing Mike Rockenfeller at the moment. Everyone has made their mandatory stop, and watch out for Rocky to be overtaken by Timo Glock going into turn 1 now. Potentially a change for P6. Glock forced to go the long way around the outside. Is there a little touch between Rocky and Glock? Glock runs wide. They're side by side. And Timo Glock and Mike Rockefeller, a little bit of paddle rubbing between the two of them here. Mike is not prepared to yield. Timo neither. And Timo does go through. A fraught, firm, but fair fight between the two drivers. Timo Glock ahead of Mike Rockefeller now. So that P6 position goes the way of the BMW driver Timo Glock, and Mike Rockefeller relegated to P7. This is Ferdinand Habsburg in P8, being chased down by Sheldon van der Linde, as it looked like Mike Rockefeller ran a bit wide then, and that just played into the hands of Timo Glock, who's able to put some margin between himself and Rocky. So this was Glock and Rockefeller into turn number 1. There was a little touch between the two of them as they're vying and fighting for space here. At this point, I thought Glock ran wide and, of course, ran into the side of Mike Rockefeller. You can see in the background the argument between Sheldon van der Linde and Ferdinand Habsburg going on, which Ferdinand Habsburg won out in that little battle. In the meantime, at the front of the pack, it is Freins from Eng from Wittmann. Freins with, last time around, it was a margin of exactly 1 second over Philipp Eng. And he's increased that by 4/10. Eng looks vulnerable potentially to Marco Wittmann here. Then it is René Rast and Nico Müller. Well, the fight between Ferdinand Habsburg and Sheldon van der Linde we saw a few moments ago. Now it's the turn of Harrison Newey on Sheldon van der Linde. And Harrison Newey goes through on Sheldon. So Harrison Newey picking up that P9 place. Both Wittmann and Rast using the DRS. Drag reduction system. Limited number of laps usage in 2020, but it has been increased. And Philipp Eng and Marco Wittmann now over this P2 place, and Marco Wittmann goes through to pick that up. So now very much in the target sights of the BMW driver Marco Wittmann will be the race leader Robin Freins. But as you can see, René Rast is on the back now of Philipp Eng. How much of a supporter for Marco Wittmann will Philipp Eng be here? Because the harder it is for René Rast to overtake Philipp Eng, the more Marco Wittmann is going to be unhindered in his quest to chase down Robin Freins. Well, Philipp Eng dives to the inside, then comes to the outside. So René is denied through turn number 1. Next big opportunity for overtake is going to be between turns 5 and 6. And we're on board René now as he makes his way through turns 2, 3 and 4. Turn 5 now. So let's see, can René get close enough to Eng ahead to dive to the inside going into turn 6? I don't think it's close enough by any means, because Philipp Eng there, you could see, using the DRS as a defensive measure against the charge from René Rast, which is perfectly legal, and really heightens the fight between the two of them. Because any advantage of DRS is nullified if the driver in front chooses to use it as well. Now the margin between Freins and Wittmann is 1.738. 1.738. We'll take a look as they cross the timing line next time around to see if that reduces, whilst keeping a weather eye on this battle between René Rast and Philipp Eng. Of course, it also plays into the hands of Nico Müller, who is able to potentially get a bit closer to René Rast as well. So the longer René is held by Philipp Eng, the better it is for Nico Müller. And now René Rast dives to the inside of Philipp Eng, and I think Philipp is going to be defenseless now going into turn number 1, because René will have the momentum and will have the inside line. He set that up on the exit of turn number 14. Now, I think it was 1.7 seconds between Freins and Wittmann. Last lap around, it's down to 1.2 now. Wittmann is on something of a charge to Robin Freins. This in replay was the overtake on Philipp Eng. And this now in replay was René Rast, who had to cut to the inside of this straight here to ensure that he'd got
level 0, this is level 0.
Turn 1 absolutely in the right place. So it was a good move by René. It probably took him a couple of laps longer than he would have liked. 1.3 now between Freins and Wittmann. And we're on board with Marco Wittmann now, the BMW Team RMG driver who podiumed for the first time this season last weekend. It's down to 7/10 now between Freins and Wittmann. Wittmann on a charge here. We've got 17.5 minutes, but René Rast is also on something of a charge too. You can see the in-laps. Rast will be on younger tyres than Marco Wittmann, but only by a lap, and that's also the case for Robin Freins as well. So the first five, certainly the first four are all on fairly similar tyre deg factors, I would suggest, since coming in to make their tyre changes. So we keep our eyes on, it's gone from 1.6 to 1.2 to, well, it was 9.32 on lap 20. But as they continue to cross the sector lines, the times increase and decrease in terms of margin, because some sectors perhaps better for Freins than Wittmann, and conversely some sectors better for Wittmann than Freins. Marco will be very well aware of the fact that he will have René Rast coming calling very, very shortly. This is our race leader, Robin Freins. His best finish, a P2 in the second race at Spa. He's had a P3 as well, so what he really needs is the race win. And here's Muller on Philipp Eng. Nico needs to get by Eng as quickly as he can. Just not convinced that keeping Nico out for as long as they did was the right thing, because it's put him back into positions where he's having to overtake cars that are on similar tyre life. Philipp Eng being one of them. Nico now really with the DRS wing down cruises past Philipp Eng, which means he's into that P4 place with René Rast approximately 3 seconds up the road ahead. So Muller now will need to put in a series of quali laps, I would suggest, to be able to get on terms with the number 33 car of René Rast. And for the moment now, you can see the gap between Freins, Wittmann, Rast. The narrowing gap is the one between Wittmann and Rast. Rast has got the pace here, and he's really reeling Marco Wittmann in. And Marco's attention will be turning probably from attacking Robin Freins to defending against René Rast. What would really work for Nico Muller here is for Marco to really, really hold up René. That would allow Nico to get on terms with René. Of course, it would all play into the hands of Robin Freins, who could escape up the road and potentially in 14.5 minutes plus a lap's time perhaps secure his first win of the season. Don't want to curse anything here, but those are just some of the things that could happen. Rast, though, I suspect, will make short work of getting by Marco Wittmann, but Marco is a two-time champion like René, and is far from an easy guy to overtake. But René on the inside here actually makes the job look very easy and goes through. So it is P2 now for Rene, P3 for Marco Wittmann. Freins a couple and a half seconds up the road from Rene. Loic Duval and Harrison Newey swap places, and that puts Loic Duval into the points as he picks up that P10 that was held by Harrison Newey. So on board with Rene Rast for the overtake on Marco Wittmann. Well, the gap was there for the inside line going into turn number 1. Rene really didn't need more of an invitation, and he goes through. Next in the queue is Nico Müller. 2.7 seconds, the gap between Freins and Rast. And we have just under 13 minutes plus a lap to go. Rast, of course, has been a race winner this season. And this is Nico Müller, the points leader. So start finish straight, don't think he's close enough to be able to take Marco on this lap. Well, certainly not here. Going into turn number 1. Wittmann, the best of the BMW drivers, Eng, the second best of the BMW drivers, who's running in that P5 place. So Freins to Rast now, 2.6 seconds as they cross that sector line. And Nico right on Marco now. Will Nico be able to have a go off the back of turn 8 and down towards turn number 9? Well, again, I'm not absolutely convinced he's close enough to be able to do it. And it is this straight between turn 8 and 9. Nico taking a look at the inside, but not able to do it. The straight is returned up to turn 10. And again, Marco seems pretty stoic through there. From this splitter cam angle, you can see the fight between the two of them here. Nico Müller is the car whose camera we were on board with, and Marco Wittmann, and now Nico around turn 14 has got the job done because he dived to the inside of Marco. That gives him a clear opportunity to get ahead of Wittmann going into turn number 1. Now, curiously, I can see some tyres being readied in the pit lane. I think it's Harrison Newey that's coming in. And this will be the second stop for Harrison Newey. I can see it from my position up here. It's a curious strategy to play, but this is Timo Glock on Philipp Eng. So Timo Glock putting himself up into P5. If you're looking at the graphics, wondering why on earth is Newey dropping down the order, this is the reason why. He's come in for a second stop. So a new set of tyres going on to the Harrison Newey car. Glock now finds himself P5, having got past Philipp Eng, who is relegated to P6. The gap between Freins and Rast is down to 1.5 seconds. It's from Rast to Müller about... Well, you can see that Rast is 1.5 down on Müller. And then to the leader, he has 3.4. And look at the concentration on Nico Müller as he tries to narrow the gap to Rene Rast. And this was how Nico overtook Marco Wittmann. DRS deployed, and he was really, really early to the inside off the back of, well, even before turn 14 was completed. And Thomas Biermeier there. And this was Timo Glock on Philipp Eng. So the gap from Rast to Muller is 1.6 seconds. But the gap from Freins to Rast, 1.1. So here is Rene. Robin Freins, of course, an apt Sportsline driver, so too is Nico Muller. Whereas Rene Rast, an Audi Sport Team Rosberg driver. So we have AB drivers P1 and P3. Just saying. So here is Muller desperately trying to get on the back of Rene Rast, and we're running out of time. Where has the race time gone? We've only got just under 8 minutes plus a lap to go. Rene P2, Robin Freins P1. Freins has been pretty much faultless, but Rast has got an obvious pace and tyre advantage on Robin Freins. DRS is deployed by Rast. You can see the rear wing drop down. Robin tries to block by diving to the inside. So Rast has got to go a long way around the outside here. Robin Freins and Rene Rast into this turn. And for the moment, Robin is able to hold on to this P1 position. There is contact between the two of them, but Rast now has managed to get by Robin Freins. So Robin certainly wasn't prepared to take it lying down, and he fought all he could against Rene. Now, I suspect that Nico will not have quite the same trouble getting by Robin. So Robin into turn number one. Rene, though, with additional momentum, was able to get to the side of Robin Freins. There was just a little touch between the two of them, but again, fraught, firm, but fair fight between the two. This was the little touch. Merely Robin trying to make sure that he kept his car on the tarmac, and Rene having to do the same when it came to the next turn. But critically, it meant that Rene got ahead of Robin Freins. We're on board with Nico Muller now on this splitter cam, who's currently P3. And look, you can see the advantage that Rene has. He's just driven up the road now, having got by Robin. And we have less than 6 minutes plus a lap remaining in this race. Robin P2 being chased down by Nico Muller, championship leader, and P3 at the moment. So in the space of a lap, 1.1 seconds is the margin that Rast has got over Freins, and here comes Timo Glock to pick up the P4 place, having gone by on Marco Wittmann. So Timo then heading for potentially his best finish of the season thus far. P4 is where he sits at the moment, and this is Lucas Auer. And Fabio Scherer swapping the P12 place. Lucas Auer goes up to P12, Fabio Scherer reduced to, or relegated rather, to P13. So very much the final stages of this race, and this was the Timo Glock move. With the DRS wing down. Fairly easy job. Oh, super slow-mo replay of Loic Duval here. Running through the gravel and the grass. But managing to get the car back onto the tarmac. So these three are some 5 seconds up the road from Glock, who is running in P4. is the P4 placer, Timo Glock, who's really left Marco Wittmann and Loic Duval and Sheldon van der Linde and Ferdinand Habsburg in this three-way fight that's going on for P8. Duval to the outside of Habsburg. Sheldon van der Linde tries to do the same. There's a squeeze there from Ferdinand. Sheldon comes back onto the tarmac. Good driving from Sheldon to be able to hold on to that, having had that excursion. And Ferdinand Habsburg now finding himself in a P10 place. Ferdinand has been really feisty and another good starter at the right at the beginning of this race. 9/10 between. Well, Muller has got by Robin Freins, but with under 3 minutes plus a lap left and a margin between Rast and Muller of 2.3 seconds. Now, Ferdinand Habsburg here going to be given the black and white flag, which is a warning flag for forcing another car off the track. It is just a warning. So 2.379. And this was how Nico Muller got by Robin Freins on the run down to turn 9. As I said, getting an overtake on Robin Freins for Nico Muller was somewhat easier than it was on for René. So, in the space of 2 minutes plus a lap, Muller has got some 2 seconds. The gap between himself and René, and that's all very well. That puts him on the back of René. It doesn't put him past him. So, and Rast, I would think, would be very difficult to get by as the gap is reduced to 1.8. Let's split the drivers between left and right. On the left-hand side is Nico Muller chasing in P2. On the right-hand side is René Rast leading. And Rast will be more than well aware of the fact that Nico is on his way. And responds accordingly by trying to increase his pace to see off the challenge to come. Were there enough laps left in the race for that challenge to be mounted? Of course, for Muller, playing the long game in terms of points haul. Maxed his points haul in qualifying and with a good margin over René Rast in terms of the Drivers' Championship points at the moment. He won't want to bin it in a quest of winning the race at all costs. So, by my reckoning, Nico has got this plus one more lap. And there is Robin Freins, P3. Robin has got 4 seconds over Timo Glock. So, to all intents and purposes, it should be another podium for Robin. So, Rast and Muller, the gap is down to 1.7. And at the conclusion of this lap, it will be the one more lap to run to bring the race to its conclusion. And barring, in my opinion, barring a mistake from René, and I think that's what it's going to take. I don't think on pace alone Nico has enough to get on terms with René, let alone get past him. However, we have seen René run off the track earlier on in the race. Nothing is done until the checkered flag is unfurled on the start-finish straight. So René, it would be his second win in a row if it stayed this way. Of course, exiting that turn now, turn number 14. 1.816, you can see to the left-hand side of your screen the gap between P1 and P2. Let's get a live gap now. It's the same. So 1.8, well, as near as damn it, it's the same. So we're on the last lap. It's Rast, it's Muller, it's Freins, it's Glock ahead of Wittmann, Rockenfeller, Eng, Duval. Then it's Sheldon van der Linde P9, Jamie Green P10. And the changeable weather conditions here at the Lausitzring really thought might just shuffle up the order somewhat. Thomas Biermeyer from ABD Sportsline kind of shakes his head, and of course they will analyse whether the strategy that they used for Nico Muller was the right one. As actually now Rast increases the margin between himself and Nico Muller. The closest finish ever in DTM, of course, came here at the Lausitzring last weekend, and the margin is not going to be as minuscule on this occasion, I would suggest. So they close out Sector 2, one remaining sector to be done on this 4.570 kilometre configuration Lausitzring that we're using this weekend for DTM 2020. And René Rast has but a couple of turns to do. And this is the final one of them. It's turn number 14. And he will head towards the timing line, and the checkered flag will be ready for him. René Rast heads towards the checkered flag and wins.
Jawohl! Yeah! Well done, well done. ALS off, slow in and pick up. Pick up, please.
So Rast from Muller from Freins.
Good job, everyone.
Timo Glock P4, Marco Wittmann P5. Mike Rockenfeller P6. As the rest of the cars.
Geil.
Across the line, Lloyd Duval, Philip Eng, Sheldon van der Linde, Jamie Green, Ferdinand Habsburg, Lucas Auer. Fabio Scherer, then it should be Jonathan Aberdeen for P14. Ahead of Harrison Newey and Robert Kubica. We will bring you confirmation of the result in due course as we look at the big turbine here at the Lausitzring. And congratulations to René Rast. And there he is. Now, the reason he's running across the grass like that is...
we all had some graining.
You would have heard the engineers saying,
conditions, but
pick up.
really well done.
To make sure that the car is within the weight tolerances, which is why René is running on the grass there, just to pick up any loose pieces onto the tyres to make sure the minimum weight is achieved. So cars all heading back. And on board with the race winner. And here, confirmation of the result then. Race 5 of 18. René Rast taking the win for Audi Sport Team Rosberg ahead of Nico Muller and Robin Freins. Those the guys we'll be seeing on our COVID-affected podium. Then it was Timo Glock and Marco Wittmann, the best of the BMWs, ahead of Mike Rockenfeller. Lloyd Duval P7. Then it was Philip Eng, Sheldon van der Linde and Jamie Green rounding out the top 10. With Ferdinand Habsburg P11. Then Lucas Auer, Fabio Scherer, Jonathan Aberdeen, Harrison Newey and Robert Kubica. And here in replay then, the checkered flag awaited René Rast for his second win of the season. And he was pleased. the cars are in parfumé. Of course, very different podium situation. And congratulations offered between Nico Muller and René. Suspect Nico and AB Sportsline will question maybe the strategy in the end, but it's always going to be a difficult one to call, and of course the weather could have really thrown a curved ball into the whole situation. Top 3 then. For Audi Sport Team AB Sportsline, Robin Freins takes P3. It was P2 for the AB Sportsline driver, Nico Muller. And taken the win for Audi Sport Team Rosberg, René Rast. And they're the top 3 in front of the podium.
Laufes der DTM-Saison 2020 auf Platz 3 aus den Niederlanden für das Audi Sportteam Abt Sportsline, Robin Freins.
Robin Freins takes the 3rd step. Nico Muller then, he takes P2. It's another good point score. Audi Sport Team Rosberg represented, of course. And René on the top step then. Baseball caps back on, trophies held aloft.
Now it's time for champagne. Spray it, but please don't drink it.
And the champagne shower then from the top 3. René Rast, race winner, Nico Muller P2, Robin Freins P3. So best of the BMWs then. Timo Glock, he'll be pleased with that, taking P4. His best finish of the season so far. And here's some great shots of the René Rast race-winning car. weather conditions are supposed to be less changeable tomorrow, and we could go back to the unbroken sunshine and warm temperatures that we saw here for the FP sessions on Friday tomorrow. But of course, one can never be 100% sure in terms of the weather and what it will do. But that's what the predictions are. Nico Müller put the chase on towards the end, but it was always going to be very difficult. P2 for Nico Müller, but he banks some points, of course, and let's hear from him now. He's with Verena.
Nico Müller is here with me now from pole position to P2. What was, it seems like you didn't have the pace in the end to even try to attack René, or how are you feeling about the P2?
Yeah, I think the end was not the problem. I think the pace in the dry was okay once it was there. The problem was that I think we stopped 1 or 2 laps too late, at least 1, if not 2. And then, you know, I was in the fight when I came out of the pits on cold tires. I had to move offline into the wet parts, and I just didn't get the slick switched on quick enough. And I dropped from leading the race comfortably in the first stint to P5, and yeah, that made life hard. I had to push very hard to gain the places again, and I destroyed my rear tires whilst doing that. So the last 5 laps, I didn't have anything left. I was just trying to survive, and unfortunately couldn't challenge René for the win, which obviously was the target. But I think, you know, we have to learn from what we could do better today, because it was not a perfect execution in the race. And yeah, still good points, a pole position, and we try again tomorrow.
I was going to say good points, and considering the fact you're saying trying to survive as a P2, it's not so bad. Thank you very much, Nico. Back to you.
Well, kind of mirrored what I thought his reactions would be. In the driver's standings, though, of course, it's another good points haul for Nico, as I intimated. 121 points. René now on 88. Robin Freins on 74. It just seemed to us that the strategy that Nico and the Sportsline team adopted for Nico, perhaps it was unfortunate in that he did come out into traffic, which meant that he was always going to probably scrub more of his tyres. Let's hear now from the man that was P3, Robin Freins.
From P3 to P3, Robin, congratulations to a 3rd place. But let me ask you, you were leading the race for a very long time, and then how come you only ended up in P3? Was the pace lacking, or what was the problem?
No, well, at the beginning I felt really comfortable with Swain tires and with slicks. Yeah, then I was leading, and obviously because it's quite damp, the track temp is really low. And still it seemed like the last, I don't know, 6 laps I had no rear tires left, which was really surprising, because I think the pace was all right. So yeah, a bit frustrated with that.
But you're back on the podium, it's still some good points. Thank you very much, Robin. Back to you.
Yeah, well done, Robin. Interesting how Robin's rear tyres were shot towards the end of the race as well. So rather reinforcing the discussions that they've been having with regards to when to stop and when to go onto those tyres, and how hard you had to fight in terms of traffic when you come back out. Let's hear from our race winner now, René Rast.
Here is our race winner, René Rast. Congratulations to winning the race, his 2nd win this season. And in the end, it seemed like you really had a quite comfortable lead. So how did it feel in the end? You were very confident probably winning the race.
Yeah, it was a bit of a chaotic race, I would say. In the beginning with the wet tires, I made a mistake, went off track in the gravel. Had a big gap to Nico already, but I knew the race can still change because the track dried up, and I knew we have to put slicks on. And I think we stopped at the okay moment. We could have stopped it maybe a bit earlier. We lost a couple of positions against Marco and Philip, but we had a better pace, so I could pass them. And in the end, it was just about tire management again. Today was a lot cooler than yesterday, so the car was completely different again. But in the end, obviously very happy with the win.
When I just mentioned it's your 2nd win in the season, you were going, I guess, as a reigning champion. It's not, I mean, do you think from here on it'll go better?
No, I mean, I had 3 wins, which one got taken away. So Yeah, you know. No, but obviously very happy because yesterday in the practice session we were really without any pace. So I'm always very happy when we are on top again, because obviously when you're in the back in the practice, you always have some self-doubts and you wonder what's going on, and to come back like that is always a good feeling.
Now the Lausitzring, we all know, and especially you, how tricky it is, especially in the rain. Now it was rainy in the qualifying, it was dry. Now tomorrow it's going to be completely different again. I think tomorrow is going to be hotter and dry. So what are you expecting for tomorrow?
I mean, as you say, the conditions are completely different tomorrow. I hope a bit cooler than yesterday. But let's see. I mean, the up cars are very strong all season already, so we can expect them to be on top again somewhere, and we try to challenge them as good as possible.
All right, well, best of luck for tomorrow. Thank you so much, and back to the commentator.
Well, that was kind of non-committal in terms of what René was expecting out of tomorrow, but he is maxed out of what he could get today by taking the race win, of course. And conditions are predicted to be very different tomorrow, so when it comes to qualifying, again, it will be absolutely critical to get it nailed so that you can get the best grid position possible. Hope you've enjoyed the DTM race from here at the Lausitzring for today, Saturday, with more race action, of course, to come tomorrow with qualifying and race 2 as well. It's been a good day here at the Lausitzring.
Yes, it certainly has been a good day here at the Lausitzring, and it was a really, really hot race. But it's hard for you to maybe believe, because yesterday we had 35 degrees and it was hot. Today it's actually quite chilly, so I got my jacket back on, and it's raining right now. So let's see what tomorrow brings. It'll definitely be drier and hotter, and hopefully we're going to see just as much action, or even more. So have a good one. Here are the highlights, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.